Zwakele also saying there was a fear within the party that many people who aren't in the leadership structures, that there's a concept of fear and bullying within the Democratic Alliance. People are scared to voice their opinions.
The only time a politician leaving a party becomes a news story is if they leave the DA and if they're black. During 1 week, Action SA lost more black leaders, 6, than we had lost in 3 years. If you go to other parties, you probably won't even see their constitution. I don't know if Gayton McKenzie has a constitution. I think he's the constitution. I don't think there are any rules for anybody. It's only what he says. I mean, take a look at the ANC. They once were a non-racial party. Today, the DA is the only truly non-racial party in South Africa. We're the only party with a properly diverse leadership and a support base that is 1/3 black, 1/3 brown and 1/3 white. We're the only party that has that support base. We're the party of good government. We're the only party that governs well in South Africa. Yes, I'm not, I can take a lot, and I do. And I take a myriad of unjust allegations. I mean, I must be the most non-racial person I know, frankly. And I'm non-racial because I treat everybody the same. I don't tiptoe around a person because they're black and not tell them the truth as I see it. I treat black people and white people as intelligent adults who can have an adult conversation and who can digest what they may consider unpalatable truths sometimes. That's I call non-racialism. I don't say one thing to somebody because they're white and then patronizingly say it in another way to someone because they're black. That is non-racialism, and I'm a committed non-racialist and always have been. And tragically in South Africa, journalism just parrots the easy lie. The DA is arrogant, for example, is the latest one, rather than getting to the truth. The easy label that people only use when they have run out of rational arguments gets trotted out as if it's a fact on television all the time. This notion that all these black leaders are leaving the DA, well, in 1 week, a month and a half ago, during 1 week, Action SA lost more black leaders, 6, than we had lost in 3 years. But do you think anybody knows that? No, because a black leader leaving a party, and it's not even a leader. I mean, people aren't in leadership positions. This is the joke. They're ordinary members. They're not in leadership positions. But suddenly, if they're leaving the DA, they become elevated to the most amazing leaders. And the only time a politician leaving a party becomes a news story is if they leave the DA and if they're black.
But are you concerned about this perception publicly?
Well, I'm concerned that people parrot it without actually getting to the truth. I mean, take a look at the ANC. They once were a non-racial party. Today, the DA is the only truly non-racial party in South Africa. We're the only party with a properly diverse leadership and a support base that is 1/3 black, 1/3 brown and 1/3 white. We're the only party that has that support base. Every other party is almost overwhelmingly one race. We have a diverse leadership. We have diverse people in key leadership positions doing excellently. And people need to portray the DA in this way because they've got nothing left. We're the party of good government. We're the only party that governs well in South Africa. Surely that should be the debate. Surely that should be the debate. Who governs better?
Zwakele also saying there was a fear within the party that many people who aren't in the leadership structures, that there's a concept of fear and bullying within the Democratic Alliance. People are scared to voice their opinions, and you alluded to that now. Is it maybe being seen as because the DA wants to stick to the rules so closely that even they'll get letters, cease and desist from your office, that it's coming across as bullying and they're too scared to speak up? Is there fear in the DA?
It can't possibly. Well, I can't speak for every individual in the DA, but all I know is that we're a party of the rule of law. We have strong internal institutions. Anybody can speak their mind anywhere. We just had a meeting with the Johannesburg caucus a couple of days ago. Some people strongly criticized or differed, and we welcomed it, and we listened, and we adjusted our views on the basis of it. That is what you do. If you're a liberal, you're always wanting to listen to another person's argument. And we come together because we share certain values, but we have to have rules. That's our constitution. If you go to other parties, you probably won't even see their constitution. I don't know if Gayton McKenzie has a constitution. I think he's the constitution. I don't think there are any rules for anybody. It's only what he says. And I think, sadly, the same is true for many other parties. But the DA has a constitution that we've worked on very hard. We have congresses at which we amend the constitution. Everybody knows what it says, and everybody plays within those rules. That's why we can build strong institutions. The DA is the only party in South Africa that has strong institutions.
Yeah, Helen Zille is back at it again. And I think there's some really interesting things I picked from this speech, and that's the fact that I think it must be really challenging to run a political party, in today's South Africa, that still maintains the non-racial perspective upon which the 1994 Rainbow Nation was built. Because it seems to me that the racial consciousness seems to be back in a way among the multiple, racial groups that make up the Rainbow Nation in South Africa. And also to think about Helen Zille's point, anyway, that the ANC is no longer non-racial. I remember, during when the times when there was the debate on if President Putin would visit South Africa, and how most of the officials of the ANC that spoke about the issue or defended the party at the time, its decisions, I really didn't feature any of the other, from my observation anyway, they were mostly the black South Africans, and I really didn't notice or observe any maybe prominent figure, maybe from the colored community or something, speaking to that effect. And so it's tricky to observe how Helen Zille says that the ANC is no longer a multiracial party, and it has become solely a black party. And also considering the fact that most of the white South Africans who left the ANC sort of like developed some form of affinity with the EFF tells a lot. Because on this channel I featured Kim Heller, who is the activist, a white South African activist, and also Carl Niehaus, who is an active member now of the EFF. And, they still stand for most of the policies of the EFF, which represent, I think, in my opinion, the original policies of the ANC, which was land expropriation, land redistribution, and certain other policies which the EFF espouses today. And it tells a lot about, what the ANC has become, and how the whole the DA now upholds the mantle of non-racialism, despite being represented mostly, as people see today, as being represented by most white leaders, that they still represent, they still uphold the tenets of non-racialism. And non-racialism seems to, I think, in my opinion, would have to really play a role in defining the future of South Africa, because for some reason, I think this is the Achilles heel that South Africa as a society would need to deal with, on how to really manage the multiple races that make up the political space, the economic space, every sector of society. And it's really a challenge. I'm also going to be featuring soon some of the Indians, because I really want to hear from the Indian community in South Africa, and really what life feels like, what life really feels like in this multiracial, non-sexist, free, democratic African nation, on the continent of Africa. I think it's really fascinating to have such a nation as South Africa on the fringes, of the continent of Africa, and having to experiment with these different forums of non-racialism and what a political party could, erupt or could represent out of that whole mix. And I remember, I think most of the leaders who are black who left the DA and now became a voice, which Helen Zille speaks about, I would think Musa Maimane, I will be also featuring some of his videos on this channel. I think he has a really interesting vision for South Africa, and Herman Mashaba as well, who is the leader of Action SA. So I think it would be really interesting to also hear from their point of view on why they left the DA, and if it's really backed by the reasons of, what the journalist here speaks about, bullying in the DA party, and this bullying having a sort of like a color color or racial undertone where some of the black leaders are unable to voice out their opinions, especially as regards issues concerning the black communities within the DA party, and if that's a reason why they left the DA party, or if there's some other reason. I think I'll try to look for some of those videos and have them published here, so we have a clearer understanding of this whole debacle on what which party now represents the most non-racial party in South Africa, and if probably Gayton Mackenzie also, as she says about the PA, that Gayton Mackenzie is the Constitution himself, and we would have to really understand all of that, and how the blacks in the DA actually perceive the DA party and what the DA party represent. I was also watching a video yesterday where, one of the proponents of the Cape Independence spoke about how they lean on the shoulders of the DA party to achieve the independence of the Cape. But at the same time, the Cape representing a non-racial, the Cape being argued by Helen Zille here as the most non-racial party in South Africa, then raises questions, because does it probably mean that some of the other races that are non-white within the DA also stand, in all honesty and sincerely, for the independence of the Cape, and also what that whole mix could represent, and what it tells about the direction of politics in South Africa, knowing fully well that color is a really major entrenched feature of South African politics. But I don't know, I'm just here trying to, thinking out loud. I would like to hear from you guys. So whatever it is you guys have heard from Helen Zille, share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please share and like and subscribe, because that's the way you support Kwazemi as a channel, an Afrocentric channel, where we try to understand deeper issues in African history, and hopefully develop a collective intelligence on how we wish to build the Africa we want to see as people of Africa. See you in the next one.